I'd like to call the Macomb City Council to order. Please, would you please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council. With your permission, I'd like to take a moment and pause for a moment of silence for Western Illinois University police officer Crystal Scott, age 38, who passed away on June 11th from a long and courageous battle with cancer. An 11-year law enforcement veteran serving the Macomb and WIU community. Officer Scott leaves behind her mother, brother, and her 14-year-old daughter, Kyra. To Officer Scott's family, our sincere condolences. Thank you. The clerk would call the roll, please.
Mike Wayland.
Here.
John Vigezzi.
Here.
Annette Carper. Here. Tom Cook.
Present.
Gail Carper. Here. Tammy Lee Brown Edwards.
Here.
Dennis Moon.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Council, with your consideration, I'd like to take a moment and issue a proclamation. I believe we have on the Zoom meeting with us the president of the McDonough County chapter of the NAACP, Mr. Byron Shabazz. Byron, are you here with us?
I see Dr. Oden. I don't.
Okay, I think it's probably Dr. Oden's with him.
Okay.
So, for the record, whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the abolition of slavery in the United States and the emancipation of African-American slaves throughout the Confederate South, Union soldiers landed at Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, with news that the war had ended and the enslaved were now free, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1, 1863. And whereas on that first Juneteenth, a name that combines June and 19th, the people of Texas were read General Order Number 3, which stated, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and free laborers," end quote. And whereas in 1997, the 105th Congress of the United States passed Senate Joint Resolution 11 and House Joint Resolution 56, officially recognizing Juneteenth Independence Day in America. And whereas it is fitting that we should recognize the Juneteenth national observance in Macomb, Illinois, on June 19th, 2020, and now, therefore, I, Michael J. Inman, Mayor of the City of Macomb, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2020 as Juneteenth Celebration Day, and I urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and city. And I encourage, as best as possible under the current level of the stay-at-home order, residents, schools, businesses, and community groups to celebrate Juneteenth as a day of remembrance and celebration. And I was proud to be able to extend this proclamation in person to President Shabazz earlier today at City Hall. And if you're on with us, Byron, if you have any comments or anything you'd like to add.
Is it on yet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, thank you very much for the proclamation, and we as NAACP, thank you. And look forward to continued work. And we have a program coming up this week with a great doctor out of Michigan, Dr. Rashid Faisal, who will do a presentation on Juneteenth. And basically, he's going to do a presentation, and we'll have question and answers. And looking forward to the community zooming in and listening and learning. And thank you again for the proclamation.
Very good. Thank you, Byron, for being with us tonight. I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Council, before you is a consent agenda, and a motion is in order.
Move to adopt as published.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda as published. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
You're muted, Annette.
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the public comment section. I know that we have at least a couple of people that would like to speak. Is there a provision to raise the hand on the
They can
device
raise
there?
their hand.
Okay.
I don't see any yet.
Okay. Is there anybody wishing to make comments tonight in the public comment section of tonight's agenda? Dr. Taylor, did you have something? I think we kind of talked earlier today.
He's muted.
Okay.
Dr. Rutledge.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay, I just want to thank you and CEO of McDonough District Hospital, Brian Dietz, Patrick Stout, Doctors Jack McPherson and Ed Card for working together to provide two excellent, I hope, shows on Macomb on the Move, in which they address the COVID-19 epidemic and all that we can do to deal with it in our area. They talk about the hospitalist program and other issues germane to what's transpiring in our community regarding COVID-19. But these are airing on Channel 3 at the university, and they're also on Channel 15, which carries this. So very exciting, but it took a very concerted group effort, again, led by you, Brian Dietz, and these two fine doctors and the university television staff at Western to make this happen. And it's I think people will like it. I believe you've got the council members have the times and the dates for the next month or so in which the show
Correct.
will be airing, and hope we can get it out there to the media so people in the community can see and get some firsthand information on how COVID-19 is affecting our area and how we can deal with it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Gordy. Yes, we provided the information to all the aldermen, and it had to be posted on the city's website for when the airing of those interviews with Dr. McPherson and Dr. Card. So thank you.
They did a fine job. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We have one hand raised. Emo is the username.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes. You have to unmute.
Hi, yeah. I had a question regarding the $25 water credit, the conditions placed upon it. So if the concern is that people might not have been able to pay for their water bills, then due to COVID, then attaching the requirement that they go out and spend $150 in specific businesses and it's limited to only the first 2,000 people, means that the people who are likely most in need of getting their are going to not be the ones who actually are able to take advantage of the discount. So I wondered if there would be a more general relief, and I think if the business stimulus is what is needed and is trying to be got at with this proposal, that it be tied to something that is not a basic necessary service, and find some other way to subsidize the private businesses through public action, if that is what is desired. But if the action that's desired is to provide relief on a basic service to people who need the relief, then just provide that relief.
Okay, Mr. Vera, is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And if it's all right, this is an agenda item. We'd allow you to chime in again on the discussion when we get to that on the agenda, if you like.
Okay, yeah, great.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the public comments section this evening?
Nancy Rutledge.
Dr. Rutledge, please go ahead.
Okay. I have a couple of issues, concerns that I want to bring to the council. And there is much could be said, but I'm going to make this rather quick. First, I will begin my comments by referencing a note sent me by the mayor. Mayor Inman sent me a note that was attached to a letter that he was making me aware of. And he indicated that he could only imagine how I was dealing with the issues of racial injustice that have occurred and continue to occur around the country. And I will say that I appreciate that. However, I don't ever want anybody to have the impression that I am dealing with an issue that will affect me and no one else. The issues that I want to deal with when it comes to racial justice, social justice, is to look at the condition of African Americans and other people of color. And if it is something that is merely indicated to me, or stated to me, the chances of that getting to the larger community would be very limited. And I've sensed very little, I feel, has been addressed with regard to things that are happening with African Americans. I feel that it would be to the benefit of the city and the mayor to make a public expression of concerns. Because I have been in this community since 1976, and I will indicate without any shame that when I got here and throughout my tenure work here, racism existed. It hasn't been eliminated. It hasn't been eliminated all over this country. But it continues. And there have not been any groups of white people who have some authority, can make decisions to come forth and express concerns with regard to doing something about them. And so I think that's where we need to be going. And note to me is appreciated, but I'm concerned about what is happening to African Americans in general, because racism is very endemic, it's systemic, and it continues. And we, in order to solve this problem, we must have white people as well as black people and other people of color that are a part of the solution to the problem. And I want you to know that it is very difficult to encounter over and over again these murders of black people by police. And police not the only ones, and we don't want to make the mistake of only looking at the police, because they are not the only ones. In every institution in this society, we have racism. So we need to do something about it. Another problem that
Dr.
Concerns.
Rutledge, I do have to apologize. You're over 3 minutes. It's approaching 4 and a little more.
okay.
Is that-
Well, I'll get off. May I say this one thing?
Sure, go please.
All right. The one other thing that I wanted to mention was I was concerned about a statement that was made by Police Chief Kurt Barker, and that was in terms of policing with regard to COVID-19. He said that one of the most frustrating things that he encountered was the fact that he was not in command. He was not in control. Other people had to give him the commands of what to do. I think that kind of attitude can be very dangerous. And I was rather surprised to hear him make such a statement. Thank you very much. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Rutledge. Anyone else on the line for public comments this evening? Anything there, Scott? Okay. All righty. Not seeing any other indication online here. We'll move on to unfinished business. Item number 1, consideration to approve establishing a residential incentive for purchases to promote the local economy, also known as RIPPLE program for the city of Macomb. Attached is a memorandum and in a revised form from the city administrator with the revisions that were suggested from the committee of the whole meeting last Monday night. Scott, do you want to go over the highlights there for us, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as I mentioned in the memo, what was updated as a result of the discussion at last week's meeting extended the time to allow for purchases until August 31st of this year, and then 30 days after that to submit the form and rebates with the receipts, and remove the restriction separating if they could be at restaurants or retail. So anything, either places for $150. And then since we extended the time, we wanted to be mindful of our city budget, so we went to limited it to the first 2,000 applicants for the rebates. So as I mentioned in the memo, the intent of this program is to encourage economic development and to support the restaurants and non-essential businesses that have been adversely affected through this pandemic, and to get something going quickly. So with this 2,000 applicants, if we do the full amount of that, that would be at $25 a piece. That'd be $50,000. That would come from the Community Improvement Fund. The water rebate is only a method to get that money back to the citizens. So the intent is not to rebate their water bill just to rebate their water bill. That's just a method, so we're not handling cash and things at the city. So this is Community Improvement Fund money for economic development. So that's the intent of this. And then on the form, I made those changes to get those substantive changes that was requested last week. I also add a few more words in here as far as the first 2,000 request forms received. In number 9, I had on there, we would give refunds. I changed it to rebates on their water bill. So some minor changes in the form, but nothing substantive.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott this evening? All right, hearing none, we'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry,
Alderman
Your
Brown
Honor.
Edwards.
I did have a question earlier about, I had a constituent come to me concerned about Mr. Moon's, Alderman Moon's question last week about what safeguards do we put on the stimulus package, for lack of a better word, for people who purchase items and then return them with those receipts. And then the same constituent asked me if we could provide another tier for people who would have a hard time, making that $150 threshold, possibly breaking it down to, maybe just $50 and then giving a $10 rebate. I just wanted to give that information that after you reading Ms. Calhoun's letter last week, that people in the community have approached me concerned about that these are tough times, and some people don't have a free 150. And I would like for Mr. Coker to again speak to what is considered non-essential business as far as retail and what is under the umbrella of restaurants.
Sure, I can speak to the last question to start with. So non-essential, and sorry, I didn't mention this, I put in there the executive order that the governor issued, 2020-10, closing essential businesses back in March, I believe it was. So that's boutiques, gift shops, salons, small retail stores that were not allowed, clothing stores that were told to close and not allowed to be open until recently. And then any restaurants within the city of Macomb would apply for this. Could be, the receipts could apply for this. So if a person maybe didn't want to go to an upper end restaurant, it could be any fast food, any restaurant in Macomb over time, over this. So this is a 2.5 month time period that they can gather these receipts to turn them in.
Okay, any discussion on the other item that Alderman Brown Edwards brought up?
Yes, could you speak to, I'm sorry, Your Honor, could he speak to the thought process of the breakdown and the amounts relating to that breakdown, please? Speaking to the how much needs to be spent and the percentage that is given back to be rebated to the residents.
So so the total of $150 needs to be spent. Originally, it had in there, I think, $50 at retail stores and $100 at restaurants. We took out the limitations, the restrictions on how to spend that $150. I think I'm a little concerned if we start to have different levels of this rebate, that it's going to be hard to administer. I mean, potentially we could already have 2,000 requests come in. Now, if we have different parts or different ways to do it, it's going to be difficult to do that within the month that we need to turn these back around and put them on water bills. I will say I did, one of the questions that Melissa Calhoun had in her letter that was read in public comment last week was comparing this to the village of Frankfort. So actually their program was $300 with a $50 rebate. So from the beginning, I already changed this to a smaller amount because I understand this is a different city than Frankfort.
Alderman Brown, were you also concerned about I know we had some discussion last week about the economic impact, the amount of money that the city would be putting in and the amount that it would generate in economic activity? Were you wanting us to share that again as well?
Yes,
sure.
As well as addressing Alderman Bloom's concern last week about possible misuse of the rebate.
Well, I guess as far as the economic activity, I believe it was reported last week that if we were able to get $50,000, matter of fact, if we reach the cap, that would generate in excess of an estimate was close to $300,000 in economic activity in the community. And then I think the understanding would be is that for folks that were inclined to take advantage of us, the idea we would be asking for original receipts, and I think most stores that allow returns, it's not for food items, and they require the original receipt to be submitted with some alterations to the receipt. I guess that would be one way of trying to ensure it, but I guess we don't want to be naive, but we'd like to think people wouldn't take advantage of either the program, the community, the businesses for this type of purpose.
One more item, Your Honor. I guess I wasn't clear in the form that the city would be claiming the original receipts and keeping them. Is that what you're saying, that people will be turning over their original receipts?
I think that's what you're calling for, isn't it,
Yeah,
Scott?
we asked for proof of purchase receipts must be submitted with the credit request form, so we could clarify that if necessary.
Because my neighbor, she said that she keeps all of her receipts because she claims her sales tax at the end of her year. And so I don't think that she would be willing to provide her original receipts unless she was given back, I imagine, a copy for her receipt. So
Yeah,
is that going to be
sure,
more of
we could
an
provide them a copy.
administrative thing, that providing copies to our
We can do that.
citizens, or we'll be accepting copies? Thank you.
Yep. We can provide a copy, and the city attorney, who has a little bit of tax code in her background, says that that would be acceptable with the IRS. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, good questions. Anyone else?
Your Honor, I just want for clarification, please.
Alderman Carper.
And that would be that it's not 150 at one time. It's cumulative of
Right.
$150 and multiple receipts over this period of time. Is that correct?
That's right, 2 months period, time.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
The comment.
Alderman Moon.
I was going to try to keep my mouth shut tonight, but
A little sick.
I have
It's probably because
I'm-
I got so worked up today.
I'm not real happy about that we're taking this money out of that community development fund. Traditionally, in the past, that has been used to loan people to establish businesses and improve their businesses. And personally, I think that's a better use for the money than the way we're proposing it tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Looks like Emilio has.
And anybody else? Mr. Vera.
Sorry, I just forgot to unraise my hand.
Okay. All righty, we'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the residential Ripple program.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the program. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Vajezzi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
She's muted. Tammy Lee, you're muted.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moon,
No.
Wayland,
Aye.
6-1.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 2, consideration to approve the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy for the city of Macomb. This was discussed at last week's Committee of the Whole meeting, and we'd entertain a motion to approve the policy.
Move to approve the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy for the city of Macomb.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the policy. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a comment.
Alderman Carper.
I just want to again thank Lisa for getting this in really good legal order so quickly. I think it'll pass any kind of challenge that there might be to it because of the changes that she made. So thank you, Lisa.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezzi,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. There is no other unfinished business. Under new business, item number 1, we have interim president from Western Illinois University, Dr. Martin Abraham, with us this evening. He would like to discuss with us Western's commitment to social justice and the role of the community. Dr. Abraham, are you with us, sir?
I am indeed. I hope you can hear me. I've just unmuted and turned on my video, so.
Very good,
I
sir.
assume that
The
I'm
floor
coming
is
through it.
yours.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the council for giving me an opportunity to make a few comments in regards to some of the challenges that we're facing. These last several months have been especially challenging for us, not only here at Western Illinois University, but also across the nation. On top of a global health crisis, we are once again faced with the challenges of systemic anti-Black racism. To the growing list of names killed by this national injustice, we have now added Rayshard Brooks, shot and killed Friday night in Atlanta. It is a national tragedy with local implications. I'm here to talk about what I see continuing on our campus and community. Today, I ask you to join me in reaffirming our commitment to social justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We must speak out and act against the injustices, discrimination, racism, and hate that plague our friends, neighbors, co-workers, colleagues, family members, and citizens around the globe. We cannot be bystanders. We can no longer be silent or complicit in responding to the concerns that we are witnessing, especially those within our own community. There are some, perhaps many, who will find these words uncomfortable. But I'd like to share with you what I've heard recently from our students from a Twitter handle they created called Black at WIU. It's just a small sample of stories and reports identified with this hashtag. There are many more across social media, and I've received emails and calls. So I quote, "Walking to catch a bus back to the dorms after leaving the movie theater and a pickup truck with some Confederate flags pulls up and starts throwing beer bottles and yelling out, 'Get out of town.' You can imagine what the next word is. When I first came to WIU, a man in the gas station told me and my mom not to be out late because Black women are targeted in Macomb. Not specifically WIU campus, but WIU is the Macomb community. It wasn't on campus. However, I worked at an institution in town, and I had an older white woman walk up to a counter and tell me, 'Give me paw,' like I was a dog. Seeing a vast majority of Black faculty members leave in fear that they'll lose their jobs before anybody else. Being Black at WIU meant watching as the community within Atlanta University ran our former Black president out of town like a lynch mob, and sitting back as every other Black person was run out too. The longer I continue in my role as interim president, the greater understanding I have of the challenges that former WIU president Dr. Jack Thomas faced. He faced systemic anti-Black racism, both at WIU and within our host communities.
We just settled this over there.
And this racism still exists today. Perhaps
Come on!
Dr. Abraham, sorry for the background noise here. We're trying to take care of that. Thank you, Dr. Abraham. I'm sorry.
The longer that I continue in my role as interim president, the greater understanding I have of the challenges that former WIU president Dr. Jack Thomas faced. He faced systemic anti-Black racism, both at WIU and in our host communities, and the racism still exists today. Perhaps the most visible example was almost exactly a year ago, with signs plastered throughout the community with the words, "Save WIU, Fire Jack." Our students are correct. He deserved better. We owe it to them, our students who continue to experience and speak out about ongoing injustices, to acknowledge these wrongdoings and to take direct action leading to change. Western student population is 63.5% white, meaning that we are 36.5% non-white, including 1,308 Black and 821 Hispanic students. WIU cannot serve as a viable university, and Macomb cannot serve as a viable host community for a diverse institution if it does not welcome and embrace all of our students and our diverse faculty and staff. WIU cannot be successful until our Black, Hispanic, international, and other diverse students, alumni, faculty, and staff feel as if they truly belong and are welcome here. Back in October, at our annual Tan and Gown celebration, I called upon our community to welcome our students the same way they welcomed me. To my great despair, this hasn't fully happened. While there have been some positive steps, such as the recent joint letter condemning police brutality and anti-Black racism, working closely with the McDonough County NAACP as part of their racial justice forums and other programming, protests led by community residents and people coming together to make Macomb a better place, there remains much to be done, as there are still ongoing issues that cause our Black students, faculty, staff, and community residents not to feel safe or a part of the community. Here are just a few more recent examples. One of my faculty shared a story from a Black former student about a restaurant in town that asked him, coming in with a hoodie, if he could afford to eat. Black. On hand, and they let him in and let him and his friends in. But he didn't ever want to go back to that restaurant. A few weeks ago, one of our new hires, a Black male, was in town looking for a residence and wanted to have lunch at a local restaurant. Without going into great detail, he described the experience as unfavorable. Let's just say he did not receive a warm reception. At the end of March, I was told that my students coming from Chicago needed to be sent home to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Later in the day, I was reminded to have them fill out their census, marking Macomb as their home. I wish that Macomb really did recognize that this is their home and would welcome them to their home as equals in the community. I have told our Black students that I will stand up, speak out, and support them. Being here this evening and speaking directly to our city leaders and residents is a start. Workshops and discussions are essential as they start a dialogue. We know they are not enough. It's time to start putting our words in real, accountable actions. While speaking up and taking a stand is not easy, and it makes people uncomfortable, it is critical. It is time for you, and I'm addressing our community leaders and our community's residents, to step out of your comfort zone and speak out against how our Black residents and our underrepresented populations have been disproportionately treated. Take up the challenge of confronting the anti-Black racism that still exists. There is much that can be done. We must expand our conversation about policing practices to include the Macomb Police as well as the Western Illinois University Police, which we've already started. We must develop further educational opportunities for our residents, continuing this discussion that we initiated, and actually find a way to get all of our residents to show up. We must review our hiring practices in town. We must ask Black, Latinx, and other underrepresented members of our community to serve on our boards, committees, and councils. We must ask ourselves why there are so few minority-owned businesses and examine our policies towards them. There is much that we can achieve by working together, recognizing our failures, and committing to a better future. When I agreed to serve as Western's interim president, I never did imagine we would have the year that we've had. We have made progress, but we have a lot of additional work to do, and I need a community that is fully on board. Thank you for the time.
Dr.
happy
Tom,
to talk
excuse me,
further
Dr.
about this
Abraham, I want to
issue.
thank you very much for your very candid comments tonight. I truly and sincerely appreciate it. Does anyone from the council have any items to discuss with Dr. Abraham regarding his comments, or any comments you'd like to make?
Yes, Your Honor. Gail Carper, please.
Alderman Carper.
I don't have any doubt that there is racism in Macomb. I saw it at Western during the years I taught there. I saw it in the court system when I practiced there, and even though I'm retired, I still see it in my personal life. But I would like to make sure that any person here, whether they're a community member and not a student, or a student, that if they are feeling that they've had racist behavior directed toward them, they should, and they're afraid to report it to the police, that they can come to Mayor Inman or any of us on the city council for help. I have no problem helping any person through the system, and I've had experience doing that as a lawyer and as a union grievance officer. So if people have had these terrible things happen to them, please realize that there's lots of ways to go about reporting those things and seeing if the city government is able to take action on them. Dr. Abraham, I really appreciate you being here tonight, and I hope that things will continue to progress as they have in other parts of the country. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Your Honor.
Alderman Carper.
Hi. Again, Dr. Abraham, I also would like to thank you for your candid words. It really saddens me that the different stories that you have told us. I think what we've seen here over the last few weeks or a month has been eye-opening, and personally I'm very saddened. I do agree with you. I think that leaders in our community need to stand up, need to speak out. I've done that, and as the executive director of the Housing Authority, we are committed to talk openly about racial equality and social justice. So I appreciate your coming to us and speaking today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Alderman Brown Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Abraham. I really appreciate your words. I read some of your words last week on council because they were very powerful to me and they resonated with me. I tell people I've been Black a long time and I've seen a lot of things, and I am always open for the conversation for anyone who, needs to report something to the police or are having issues, and I'd be happy to bring them to your office as well if that was allowed. And I post on Facebook all the time on my Alderman page, and people are welcome to message me if they have any questions or concerns or complaints. I want people to be able to feel comfortable to voice their issues, because we can't fix those things if we don't know about them. So again, thank you, Dr. Abraham, for speaking to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Abraham, I again want to thank you for your candor this evening, and it saddens me that the stories that you're sharing with me, they unfortunately do not surprise me. I'm not that I needed to witness firsthand some of these activities in the last couple of weeks as it relates to our very peaceful and appropriate demonstrations here in the community. I saw firsthand the systemic anti-Black racism that you're speaking of, and the members of the public here in Macomb. Members of my family also experienced and witnessed it on a very personal and basis as well. I can assure you of my commitment to working with you and the rest of the community to my very best abilities to address the systemic anti-Black racism that you've alluded to here this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate the reception, and we'll be sure to be in touch as we continue to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abraham. Item number 2, Consideration to authorize soliciting bids for the rebidding of the Northwest Water Main Replacement Phase 2 project with the approved scope change by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. A memorandum is in your packet from the Public Works Director, Ms. Ortman. Alice, could you go with that for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Back in February, we bid out the project originally, and it came in quite a bit higher than the estimate as well as the grant amount. We requested a change of scope from DCEO to take a couple of streets out to bring the project more in line with the grant amount. That work has been approved by DCEO, so we're now requesting permission to put the project back out for bid.
Okay, we'd entertain a motion to authorize the soliciting for those rebids.
I move that we authorize the rebidding of the sewer project. The water project, excuse me.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the solicitation for the bids. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Can't hear me, can you?
There you go. Sorry.
Aye.
Thank you, Dennis.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3, consideration to authorize the solicitation for bids for the Northwest Water Main Replacement Phase 3 project. There's also a memorandum in your packet from Ms. Ortman of the Public Works Director. Alice, could you go with that for us, please?
As you know, we've been applying for grants to make improvements to our water main system, and Phase 3 is just a continuation, obviously, of Phase 2, and so those projects have been awarded a grant as well, and the grant has gone through all its preliminary environmental work, et cetera, and we have been approved by DCEO to put this project out for bid. So we are requesting to put it out for bid at the same time as Phase 2, hopefully to make it a little bit bigger and maybe a little more enticing to contractors. But these will be bid as 2 separate contracts. These are not being combined into one.
Move to authorize.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the solicitation of the bids. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 4, consideration to approve the engineering agreement supplement with Mauer Stutz in the amount of $6,970 for the preliminary plan and project development report for the Candy Lane project due to changes in the Illinois Department of Transportation policy. There's a memorandum in your packet from the Public Works Director, Ms. Ortman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The original contract was signed with Mauer Stutz back in, I believe, 2016, 2017, and there have been some changes along the way that have been previously approved, having to do with some environmental issues and spending a significant amount of time on a drainage design alternatives for that area. Mauer Stutz has been working with IDOT, trying to sort of maybe chase their change in policy as we've been going through this process, and it has resulted in more man hours being spent than they had initially estimated. The PDR, the preliminary project development report, is now completed, and it has been submitted to IDOT for approval. And so this request for an additional $6,970 should be the end of the changes to this contract.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'd entertain a motion to approve that supplemental agreement with Mauer Stutz.
Move to approve the supplemental agreement with Mauer Steps.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I
I'll-
just have some questions.
Sure, Alderman Carper.
I was reading Alice's memo, and I can't tell if every time we have added a supplement that there are new things being done, because it says when we added the original was 160. Tell me if I've got this right. Then we paid another 18,000 that dealt with flooding. Then a second supplement of almost $10,000 said it was for a change in IDOT policy for PESA. And then at the second paragraph, they're talking about PESA again. Is that two different actions or one when they're discussing PESA?
I believe it's the same PESA. I think what has happened is the timeline on this project has been so long, and IDOT personnel have changed, and it's been a little bit of a moving target. And so what they were told by one group of IDOT employees, those people left, and then they got a new set of IDOT employees, and their direction changed. And so this is really them trying to get everything finalized with the current regulations as they see them, and to get it approved by IDOT so that we can end this prolonged, drawn-out procedure.
Okay, so you're saying that the change in IDOT personnel was what caused the extra work hours?
That's been part, for this particular change order, that has been a big part of it, yes.
Okay, and then my final question is that the second paragraph ends with saying finalizing the PDR and submitting it to IDOT. Were those two things not included in the original contract cost of $160,000?
That was part of the original scope, was to get it completed and get it submitted. It's all the extra work that was required from this expanded timeline and change of regulations and interpretations by IDOT that has added this extra money onto the end of the contract.
Okay, thanks, Alice.
If I might add one thing, and Alice, correct me if I'm wrong, I know you weren't in your position at the time, but that I believe that $18,000, Alderman Carper, the one supplement, had to do with the floodplain that runs through that area of town, and there was some initial discussion as to whether we would be impacting that and whether or not federal or state law would make certain requirements come into play if we did impact that. And they subsequently did, and that was the reason for the additional engineering that needed to be done to address those floodplain concerns.
Okay, thank you. It just seems like, $160,000, and then everything keeps going up, another 18, another 10, now another 7. Seems like a lot of things weren't included in the original bid or the original contract cost. And
Understand.
I'm no construction expert, but it bothers me that we have to keep adding money to these.
I completely understand. That's a sentiment that I think many of us share. And you also add to the fact that it's an unusual topography in that section of the community, and that and the scope of the project that we're proposing there has some to do with the cost estimate there as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Brown Edwards,
You muted.
Aye.
Yep, thank you.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezzi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 5, consideration to accept with regret the letter of resignation from Mr. Craig Conrad from the Macomb Police and Fire Commission.
Make a motion to accept with regret the letter of resignation from Craig Conrad.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept Mr. Conrad's resignation. Any discussion? Mr. Conrad served for well over a decade in this position, and as he's indicated that some other priorities have come due to some changes in his employment, and he will be leaving that position. So, hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6, consideration to approve the public transportation applicant ordinance to provide public transportation in the city of Macomb. And for the record, items 6, 7, 8, and 9 are individual items because they require individual action to be taken on them, but they are historically annual review and approval of each of these, the applicant ordinance and then the 3 resolutions that follow. So we do have Lori Sutton, the new public transportation director for the McDonough County Public Transportation Committee, on the line with us. But Lori, is there anything you'd like to talk about on any of these? I know John also is here. John Bannon is also here to go over some of the issues with us.
Okay, this is Lori. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the grant applications that are going in this month. We have 4 altogether. One's going in Friday. That is the Rebuild Illinois Capital Improvement Grant Program. We're looking at submitting application for 2 buses. One's one of the bigger 30-passenger bus, and then the other one would be one of the 14 passenger paratransit buses. I have Gary Ziegler, the retired transit director. He's coming over tomorrow to assist me looking at some of the stuff to make sure I'm doing the application correctly and stuff, since I have a good grant background, but the transit's kind of the new area for me, so we're going to be looking over what I got in the application so far. The 5311 and the Downstate Operating Assistance Program are the regular ones that we apply for, and item 6 and item number 8 are both related to the 5311 program. Item 7 is related to the Capital Assistance Grant Program, where we're applying for the buses. And item 9 is also related to that. The one that's new this year is the CARES Act. That's also due at the end of the month. This is additional funding that's coming from the federal government related to COVID-19. It's doesn't require any match. So, I mean, we're going to try to apply for as much as we can. That way we can go back to January 20th to apply for some of the funding to go backwards. And we may be able to ask for extensions down the road to carry it forward too. So that's kind of our plans for what we're doing with the different grant applications.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton, and welcome aboard. We appreciate your joining the regional council staff and being our agent for running the transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alrighty. We'd entertain a motion on item number 6, consideration to approve the public transportation applicant ordinance to provide public transportation in the city of Macomb.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the applicant ordinance. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Wayland.
Aye.
Vijezi.
Aye.
A. Carper.
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
G. Carper.
Aye.
Brown Edwards.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 7 is a consideration of a resolution authorizing submittal of that application dated June 19th, 2020 for public transportational capital assistance grant. There's a copy of the resolution in your packet if the city's attorney would mind reading that into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The application is for the Public Transportation Capital Assistance Grant for the purpose of offsetting eligible public transportation capital costs for the city of Macomb. It would authorize the execution of any subsequent grant agreement amendments that would be required under the grant program.
Okay, we'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve resolutions. I guess we're all doing it.
Okay.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded to approve. I think the clerk was able to pick up on both the motion and the second. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 8, apologize. Consideration of a resolution authorizing execution and amendment of Section 5311 grant agreement. There's a copy of that resolution in your packet as well, and if city's attorney would mind reading that, please.
Thank you. This is another resolution for a grant program. Does provide for local matching funds, authorizes the mayor to execute and file the application on behalf of the city, as well as any amendments that may be necessary.
Thank you. Would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 9, consideration of a resolution accepting the terms and conditions of the special warranty as part of the city's application for Section 5311 financial assistance. The resolution is in your packet, and if the city attorney would read the resolution in the record, please.
As indicated, this is a resolution that authorizes the mayor to approve the special warranty for purposes of the grant application.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Cook,
Aye.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 10, consideration to reject the bid from National Express Durham School Services for the McDonough County Public Transportation Services and authorize permission for the McDonough County Public Transportation to negotiate a 1-year extension with National Express Durham School Services. There's a memorandum in your packet from Ms. Sutton regarding this action. Lori, could you go over that, or John is going to, I guess. I'm sorry, John was part of that discussion as well. John?
Thank you, Mayor. And Lori, you can add in if I miss anything. On May 20th, the RFP for the transit services for Go West fixed route system and demand response system, Hancock County's demand response system, and the Macomb Community Unit School District 185 Transportation Service were released. The due date was June 9th, 2020 at 10 a.m. There was one bidder, National Express Durham School Services, which is the current vendor. There had been 10 vendors to request packets of information. Staff, both at Transit and the city, feel there were several reasons for this. There was a change in IDOT's bureau chief, so the change in management resulted in the RFP being submitted to IDOT for concurrence on January 6th and not being approved until mid-April. COVID-19 made individuals and companies less likely to do the mandatory site visit, and obviously there was an unexpected death of the transit director. So this brings us to the sole source bid that we received. There are no major issues with Durham's service at this time, but If one looks at the total cost per service hour, the top item, there's a 19% projected increase from 2019 to 2020 in the bid submitted by Durham. There's a 45% increase from the current year to the last year of the proposed bid. That's quite an increase in expected cost, and given that there are no other bids submitted, we'd like consideration to negotiate with Durham for a 1-year extension and then rebid all of both demand response, Go West, and the school contract. Are there any questions, or Lori would like to add anything?
You did a great job, John.
I have a question.
Alderman Carper.
Is this the second year that we have been in this situation or similar to? I remember joining the committee last year, and it seems to me that, did we extend a year last year as well?
We extended demand responses last year. And the logic behind bidding the school contract, the Go West fixed route contract, and the demand response contract all in the same bid package was to attract increased interest and increased bidders. So we did get that interest in the questions with 10 vendor packets, or 10 vendors interested, but again, related to the tight time frame due to IDOT's change in management, related to COVID-19, there was only one bid submitted in the end. And so we would recommend the best course of action to extend 1 year again, and then rebid for the full contracts moving forward next year.
Okay, I understand, COVID has messed everything up. I just concerned about extending it, year after year. I'm not disputing it. I'm just concerned about that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And I will say that we're doing a year because it does take over 30 days for them to move the school buses at the school district. And it's really not a good idea on the school district side to change providers in the middle of the district too. So that's why we're also asking for the year-long extension too, rather than 6 months or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Susan. Can you hear me?
Yes, Susan, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say to Alderwoman Carper, it's not our intent to continue to extend it year after year. That it's just this, as John so eloquently said, this year was a very unusual year, and it was a matter of timing. And so our intent for next year is to start early, and that is really what Nathan had done. As John had said, he sent it in on January 6th, but it was, with everything that transpired, things got delayed. But yeah, we're going to start the process early again next year and see if we can get more responsible bidders.
Thank you, Susan.
Great, thank you.
Well, if there's no other discussion, we'd entertain a motion to both reject the bid from National Express Durham and then authorize permission to negotiate a 1-year extension with them of the current contract.
So
Motion
moved.
to approve. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
G. Carper,
Aye.
Brown Edwards,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Wayland,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
A. Carper,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. There is no other new business this evening. Under committee reports, Mr. Bannon, can you give us an update on the complete count census, please?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. The numbers haven't changed appreciably. We're still at about 56.2% for the community, so please continue to encourage people to be counted in the census. We are closing out our WIRC, Illinois Department of Human Services grant this month. Very appreciative for all the support we've gotten there, and there will be more funding in July, so we look forward to that. We did get some positive recognition from the National Census Bureau for our collaboration with Genesis Garden and the bags that we were able to donate to them through that grant. So we'd like to thank both our funders and Genesis Garden for that collaboration. It was very much recognized, and so all the activities the Complete Count Committee does are being noticed. We are planning to do a walk with some Housing Authority employees next week or the week after in the Northeast Quadrant. And so I think placing some bags on people's doors, door to door, as we move into phase 4 is going to get some more response in those areas. And so we look forward to that. As well, Downtown Development has created a series of really great flyers, and we're going to be putting one on social media per week. So whether you're at City Council or listening, if you could share those as we move forward, that'll help get that message. And we're trying to cater to a lot of different hard-to-count groups, recognizing that one flyer is probably not effective for everyone. So trying to meet everyone where they are. And again, we appreciate you sharing, we appreciate you speaking with everyone, and we'll continue to try to get everyone counted.
Very good. Now, there was a meeting today of our local committee, and much of this came out of that. Is that right, John?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we had a meeting on Zoom with our local Complete Count Committee. We've got some other things in the works. It's a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. And so I think some of those you'll see in the next month. Some of those you'll see in August as the students return, but a lot of volunteers doing a lot of things behind the scenes. It's never just one or two people.
Okay, very good. Any questions for John? All righty, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other committee reports this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Carper.
I attended the County Board Committee on that oversees the animal shelter. They've been very successful in adopting dogs for the past 2 months. In fact, at the time, there was only one left for adoption. And I also wanted to work in there that the Pet Supplies Plus store has been very instrumental in helping with cat adoptions. They've adopted 60 cats through the store over the last 6 months or so, and there are still plenty of cats to be adopted. So things are going well with that committee.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other committee reports? Okay, hearing none, aldermanic reports. Alderman Moon.
Yes, I would try to get your attention when Dr. Abrams was done speaking, and I don't know what happened, but I would just like to add my thank you to his presentation tonight, and also pony on to what. Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And what Alderman Gail Carper said about being available to anyone that student or resident, whoever, has a problem with someone in the community and don't want to call the police. I share her thoughts in that that is part of duties as an alderman to deal with those problems, and hopefully we could come to a solution. And I would just add that Alderman Brown Edwards, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So if you do have a problem and it's not being addressed, do give your alderman a call. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Alderman Brown Edwards.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would encourage our citizens to, I want to thank the NAACP president for giving his presentation, and I would encourage citizens to contact their representative for the NAACP regarding the Juneteenth celebration that Mr. Shabazz had brought up. Juneteenth is June 19th. It's an important holiday to African Americans, and it's part of American history. So I'm hoping it's an important holiday to us all. If you don't know much about it, you can just search it, and hopefully, again, the NAACP will be able to provide guidance on more about it, as well as creating awareness that hopefully Juneteenth will be a more visible holiday in our nation's history. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Carper.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Cook.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Carper.
No report, Your Honor. I do have a question, though, for you and the Administrator, Mr. Coker, and that would be in regard to the citywide waste management. I've had some calls from constituents. I was wondering if you had an update for us.
Thank you. As you know, that has been postponed and not canceled. Currently, our most recent communication was this morning with waste management staff. They're indicating that they're looking at the first week to 10 days in August to pick up those items. They're asking for our input in that timing. Since we just got this morning, we'll have some discussion with city staff, and we will have a definitive answer for the community in the next couple of days on when that will roll out. But I appreciate the opportunity to update everyone on that.
Thank you.
Anything else, ma'am?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Alderman Vajezi.
First off, thank you to Interim President Abraham for speaking to us this evening. Very insightful on what's happening within WIU and also eye-opening about what's happening within our community. The second is piggybacking off of what everybody said. If you have an issue and you're uncomfortable speaking with the police, every alderman here is available to be contacted. So whether it be phone call, text message, putting a note on someone's front door, please do so. It is up to everyone in Macomb to help stop racism. So, whatever we can do to help out, we definitely will. And this week, after much blood, sweat, and tears, Western Illinois Regional Council has moved. So they're in their new building starting today. They did a great job moving everything, but they're excited to have a little bit more space.
Very good, thank you. Alderman Whalen.
Yes, I'm not always the most vocal alderman, but I am the alderman of the First Ward, and I agree with everyone. Anyone has any issues, please let us know. That's why we're here. And thank everyone for all their contributions tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Scalf, sorry.
No report, thank you.
All right. I'm looking down here expecting to see Alderman, and I apologize. Madam Clerk.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Coker?
No report.
Okay, thank you. Council, I would only be echoing what you said. The idea of what Dr. Abraham has shared with us tonight, again, regrettably, it does not come as a shock to me. We have, as a community, some work to do, and I'm encouraging everyone to please work with us. There was an incident that I was aware of over the weekend, and we've taken some action on that, and we're hoping that will be an impetus and catalyst in moving the community forward in not only discussion but action. Council, I'd like to appoint Ms. Jill Myers to replace Mr. Conrad on the Police and Fire Commission. Ask for your concurrence.
Motion to appoint Jill Myers to the Police and Fire Commission.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Ms. Myers. Any discussion? I would state that Ms. Myers is eminently qualified to be in and grateful for her willingness to accept the appointment to this commission. And hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Would ask you to take a few minutes over the next week or so and look at the budgetary and financial report that was submitted with part of your packet this evening. I think it is self-explanatory. The revenue is from the month of, particularly the sales tax collections represent March, which would be about half of the time that we were under the stay-at-home order. And then the overall revenue tracking report for major sources of income is also included on that. And we'll all need to be paying close attention to those numbers over the next several months. So no other business to come before you this evening. We would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.